Join me as we travel back in time to the 1980s when this dessert was in vogue. Nowadays, it isn't as popular anymore, but several people in my family absolutely love it, so my mother still makes it quite frequently. It is slagroompudding, literally translated whipped cream pudding. It very much is like bavarois, a classic French dessert, although my mom's method of making it is actually a lot easier than the original French recipe. Hi, I'm Toine, welcome to my kitchen. If you're new to this channel, I focus on cooking foods from my home country, the Netherlands, and some of its former colonies, such as Indonesia. Today, we're making slagroompudding, a Dutch dessert that was very popular in the 1980s and closely resembles a French bavarois. I'll be following my mom's instructions, which are way simpler than the classic bavarois methodology that involves tempering eggs and making a custard the traditional way. I don't know how my mom came to this kind of shortcut, foolproof way, but it works every single time. My mom's recipe has no additional flavorings added. This is the sweet cream version of this dessert. The sweet cream really shines, and if you like that flavor, you don't need to add anything. But at the end of the video, I will tell you some variations you can make by simply adding additional ingredients. For this recipe, you will need 300 milliliters of milk. Please divide it in 50, 100, and 150 milliliter portions. You'll understand why later. You'll also need 250 milliliters of heavy whipping cream, 125 grams of granulated sugar divided in 25 and 100 grams. You need 2 eggs separated. So here are the egg whites and the egg yolks, and then 1 tablespoon of unflavored gelatin. This recipe requires you to add gelatin to the custard when we're making it. So the first thing you have to do is bloom the gelatin. So I take my gelatin and add it to the 50 milliliters of milk and just let it sit until this is all incorporated. It will kind of absorb all the milk and become one big blob. I actually stir the gelatin kind of through all the milk a little bit to just make the blooming happen a little bit quicker. For the next step, I have the 150 milliliters of milk, the 100 grams of sugar, and the 2 egg yolks. I've put the cream and the egg whites in the fridge because I want them to be really cool when I use them later. First thing I'm going to do is add my egg yolks and my sugar to the bowl. And I'm going to whisk that together until it becomes a pale yellow and all the sugar is incorporated into the egg yolks. So far it's still pretty much like you would make a traditional custard for the bavarois, but soon my mom has a slight diversion from the original recipe. You can use a mixer for this as well, but I like doing it by hand. I get a better feel of how creamy the mixture has become. Just mix it all the way through until it gets this pale yellow and all the sugar is mixed through the egg yolks. We're there. So now I'm going to mix in the 150 milliliters of milk. Be careful when you start mixing this because there's a lot of liquid, but it will soon come together. I like to check the bottom of the bowl to make sure that nothing is stuck. This is going to look kind of weird, but yep, this is all incorporated. In a small saucepan, we are going to combine the milk, this is the 100 milliliters, and the mixture of egg, sugar, and milk in here. Just scrape everything out. Over low heat on my stove, I set it to number 2 on this dial. Continuously stir it until it comes to a slow boil. This is going to take a while, but you want this to go nice and slow. I have tried taking a shortcut and putting the flame higher up to get to the boil faster, but it didn't quite work out, so patience will pay off. My mom's instructions are very specific that you need to stir this with a wooden spoon, not with a whisk, so that is what I'm using, my trusty old pollepel. So one variation of this that you can make is by adding vanilla bean to this while you're making this mixture. So just simply split open a vanilla bean, make sure all the seeds are in here, and even leave the vanilla bean in here as you are bringing it to a boil. And that will infuse this milk mixture with a good amount of vanilla flavor and will make the overall slagroompudding taste more vanilla than just plain sweet cream. La, 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 la. As you can see, little bubbles are starting to form around the edge, so we are getting pretty close to the boiling point. So just pay close attention, and once it is boiling, leave it boiling for 30 seconds and then turn off the flame. You want to keep stirring it when this simmering starts happening, because it's only happening on the edges, as you can see, and by stirring it, you make sure that every part of the mixture hits its boiling point. And we're starting to see bubbles in the middle, so 30 seconds. We've taken it off the stove, and now it is time to put it through a strainer to make sure that there are no pieces of egg inside our mixture so that they end up in the dessert. So no pieces of cooked egg will make it in this way. So the next thing that we'll have to do is actually add the gelatin to this, but you don't want to add the gelatin when it's too hot. So right now the mixture is 184 degrees. You want to make sure that it hits at least 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 55 degrees Celsius before you're adding your gelatin. Anything hotter than that will actually cause it to have less gelling power. So wait until it is cool enough to do it, and then we are going to add this gelatin mixture in here and stir it through very, very thoroughly, because you don't want big clumps of gelatin left in your dessert. So what I'm going to do to speed up the mixture cooling down is actually move it around with a spatula. You don't want to whisk it at this point and incorporate air. What I do is just kind of move it around, make it touch the cool glass bowl so that the temperature drops a little quicker than just letting it sit here. And it's working. We're already at 145 instead of 184 degrees. Let's check the temperature, because I think we're getting pretty close. 131. I'm gonna call that okay. So now we're gonna add this big block of gelatin into the mixture. Make sure you get it all, because you want that gelling powder. You want that gelling power. And now we're going to mix it through until it is fully melted. I'm going to start it with the spatula, but I will switch over to the whisk once it kind of starts breaking apart. If you're having trouble melting the gelatin, you could put this over a really low flame if the temperature dropped too much, just to get it back to that 130 degree mark so that it can keep melting. If you started this at 130, it should be fine to melt all the gelatin and mix it through. So I'm going to switch over to my whisk now. As you're doing this, you will notice that the pieces of gelatin are getting smaller and smaller, and soon they will be completely dissolved. I can still see some pieces, like tiny pieces of gelatin in here, so I'm going to keep whisking to make sure that everything is dissolved. I'm going to pour this into a different bowl through a strainer, just to make sure that if there are any tiny little lumps of gelatin left, they don't make it into the final product. Just pour it through. Now we want to let this cool off so that it can start gelling just a little bit. You don't want it to be fully gelled yet, because we're going to mix it through the heavy whipping cream. So I typically wait until it is 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 24 degrees Celsius, and then I will start whipping the heavy cream with the egg whites and mix it all together. Depending on the temperature in your kitchen, it may take some time for this to get to the 75 degree mark. Just like we did before, you can kind of move it around the bowl with a spatula to aid in cooling it down quicker. You'll see it start gelling up, and you know that when that starts happening, that you're getting pretty close to that 75 degrees. Okay, temperature is 75 degrees, and now it is time to put the whipped cream together. So I'm going to move this to the side, and in a bowl combine the heavy whipping cream and the egg whites. Also different from the original bavarois recipe is they don't add the egg whites to the whipping cream, and the 25 grams of sugar. So with a mixer, you can use a stand mixer as well, with the whisks attached. Beat this until it is just shy of soft peaks. You want it to kind of look like a mousse. Start slowly so that you don't end up splashing the cream all over your kitchen or yourself. And then just slowly increase the speed. We've hit the consistency that isn't quite soft peaks and more mousse-like. So now it is time to mix the custard through it. Use a spatula to scrape it all out. As you can see, it's gotten a good amount thicker already. And now whisk this through. You want to mix this until you see no more white or yellow streaks, so that means everything is thoroughly combined. So you have to move a little quickly. I put individual serving glasses in this little tray so I could quickly grab it. We're going to scoop this in here and then cover it with cling wrap and put it in the fridge to set. It will probably take 1, maybe 2 hours to fully set. It's hard not to make a mess. So now that I have filled my cups, I'm going to put one big piece of cling wrap over it before I put it in the fridge. And now we're going to let it firm up in the fridge for at least 2 hours, even overnight. When I filled my 4 glasses with the slagroompudding, I had some left over, so I just put it in a small bowl and they've sat in the fridge for a while. So I made my best attempt at a quenelle or 2 quenelles on a plate, and now it is time to taste it. So as you can see, it holds its shape really well. Let's try a bite. Eet Smakelijk. It has such a clean cream flavor. That is the very first thing you taste when you take a bite. And the sweetness is just right. Not too sweet, but still sweet enough to be called dessert. And the mouthfeel is fantastic. It is firm, yet still so smooth, it just melts in your mouth. Now, we typically serve this with some fresh berries, strawberries or raspberries, on top of it in the glass or next to it. You can also serve it with just a drizzle of chocolate syrup. Now, I told you that I was going to give you some variations. So one of the things that you can do is add vanilla to the milk mixture when you are making the custard. And that will make this have just enough of a vanilla flavor, but you won't lose that sweet cream flavor. You can also mix cocoa powder through the milk mixture and turn this into a chocolate dessert. Of course, at that point, no more sweet cream flavor. Chocolate will overpower that, and that is all you'll taste, which I love. So that is definitely a variant. And if you want to be really adventurous, you can also put some strawberry jam through the whipping cream before putting it all together, and this whole thing will have just a nice hint of strawberry. For those of you who want to make good-looking desserts, if you make 2 different flavors, you can split this in half and then actually stack them in the glass so that you have the vanilla layer or the sweet cream layer on the bottom, and then the strawberry or chocolate layer right on top of that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video where we went back to the 80s to make a classic Dutch dessert. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.